Greetings and welcome to Act One, a Canadian take on news events. I am your host, Gordy Canuck, and it is now 10:20. I'm about 5 minutes late in getting the live stream started. Going to be getting a meaty topic tonight. Well, this is my dog, Max the Wonder Dog. Going to be talking about the fall of the American Empire. Not the decline, not the rise and fall, but specifically about the fall. I see us as being very much at an inflection point in history. How long this will last, Max is loving getting into the action here. If anyone's curious as to the breed of my dog, he is a 100% pure mongrel hound. We don't know what he is. He's got Springer Spaniel, Boxer, Border Collie, probably some lab. Maybe one day I'll get one of those DNA tests done that tell you exactly what breeds are in. The live chat will be open. I'm going to be saying some, I think, uncomfortable things tonight. Some I think will land. People will get, there will be broad based agreement. Others I'm expecting to get, if this video is watched, some pushback on. I'm going to be talking about the fact that I think that Canada, my home and native land, to quote our national anthem, that we should be sending naval assets, our frigates, our Victoria class frigates, into the Persian Gulf region, into the Straits of Hormuz. And I know that is an unpopular opinion right now. Trump is such a, I'm going to say it, hated figure in this country right now that we cannot see the forest for the trees. And this all ties into the fact that the Pax Americana, American hegemony, the American empire that has been the world's greatest empire to this point is on the way out. And it's not going to be pretty. And I will also be drawing heavily, as I frequently often do, on my Christian faith. But before I get going, Max will keep jumping up on me periodically because I'm holding a biscuit in my hand. Welcome to Act One, a Canadian take on news events where I do these videos from time to time, live and unscripted, very raw, bare bones, basic content. If you like that kind of thing, hit the subscribe button. I don't have anyone behind the scenes pulling my strings. These are the genuine thoughts, views, opinions of a 60-year-old Canadian living in Ontario, one who did serve in the military. I was in the communications branch. Some will know the term signals, Royal Canadian Corps of Signals, Signal Corps, if you like. But let me get Max taken care of. Shake a paw, give me a paw. Good boy. Lay down, lay down, lay down. Good boy. Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. You weren't shy before. Come up and get it. There we go. I love his white mantle, and he has four white paws. Anyway, Laura Floyd is here. Good to see you. Hoping to get some engagement on this. We'll see what happens. I haven't really gotten rolling yet. Uh, man, what a world! The price of gas is skyrocketing on world markets. It's already impacted my area. Gas prices are up in and around 30%, a little north of 30%, thanks to the turmoil in the Middle East and specifically with the Straits of Hormuz, where 20% of the world's oil supply transits through this narrow passageway. I think it's 25, 30 kilometers wide, uh, less than the distance between where I live on the shores of Lake Ontario across to upstate New York. And prices in my area are up about 30%, and I think we can anticipate them going up even higher. Gas was, prior to this outbreak, prior to this war 2.5 weeks ago, or in and around $1.20 to $1.25 a liter. If you're an American, I think there's roughly 5 or so liters to a gallon. You can do the conversion yourself. And now they've gone from that $1.25-ish area, a buck 20, a buck 25. Now we're up north of $1.60 in my area, buck 62, a 30% or so increase in the price of gas. And again, this is only getting started. We have such feckless leadership in this country and have for a very long time. I don't want to sidetrack too far, but we have Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney, our carnival prime minister, who is pulling garbage out of his nether regions. He's talking out of his ass. And he says that Canada is going to be releasing 23.8 million barrels of oil a day, to ease the crunch, as if we have a stockpile, as if we have an oil reserve. He later tried to walk that back when he was made to look incredibly stupid. I mean, he's Mark Carney on the world stage is being built up as a major statesman, and the rest of his WEF cronies love talking him up. Former head of the Bank of Canada, former head of the Bank of England. This is a guy who didn't even know where the United States gets most of its semiconductors from. And, an important component in the digital economy, semiconductors. A year or so back, Carney was saying that we could cut off the semiconductors that Canada sends them. And he claimed that the United States gets most of its semiconductors from Canada. Mark, they get them from the U.S. gets them from Taiwan. But why would Mark Carney know about international trade? He's a money printer, is what he is. That's what Mark Carney's expertise is running the printing press and printing out more money. He's great at borrowing and spending. Oh, we are in trouble. The West is collapsing, and it's happening right before our eyes. And so I'll get into the meat of it right now. We're already 7-8 minutes into the video. So the meat of my thesis statement, for lack of a better word, is that we are the Roman Empire, the American Empire. History repeats. The Roman Empire both imploded from within and from without. If you do not have strong foundations, if you do not have watchmen on the wall, if you look just inwardly to the individual self and you don't worry about the broader society, then you're prone to be overtaken. And so it's a two-step process, is what I am saying. There is decay from within, and the decay from within leaves you prone to being overtaken from without. In Rome, the most widely accepted date for when did the Roman Empire fall, type that into a search, you'll be given the year 476 AD, Anno Domini. 476. It's represented, in September of 476. Germanic peoples under some guy, Odoacer, conquered the Rome itself and deposed the Roman emperor at that time, the last true Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus. A little bit of history. You might want to mark the date on your calendar. The date that the Roman Empire fell was September 4, 476. I don't think it's going to happen that quickly. I still think we're not in the early stages, but we are certainly well past the midpoint. This has been building for a very long time, for my entire lifetime, and I'm going to be 60 in July, born in 1966. And this erosion of Western civilization has been going on for a long time. In 1986, a Canadian film made something of a splash in the movie industry. It was called The Decline of the American Empire, a film by a Quebec producer by the name of Denis Arcand, and his film won the Critics Award at the Cannes International Film Festival and was the first Canadian film to be nominated in the foreign language category because the film was 100% French, Quebecois, which is a bit of a derivation dialect of French. And the movie centered, it was talking about the decline of the American empire. Now, 40 years later, I think we're coming very close to the fall of the American empire. And I don't know where to begin. And and coincidentally, the rise of the Islamic world. And right now, we have in and around, it's tough to say because the statistics are slow when you ask, when you go to StatsCan and other academic sources to find out what is the percentage of people who identify as members of the Islamic faith, how many of them live in Canada, and the numbers you'll be given are for 4 or 5 years ago. I think it's safe to say we're probably in around 5, 6% of the population in Canada identifies as Muslim. Contrast that with the United States, where numerically Muslims are more because the United States is 10 times our population, not quite, more like 8.5, 9. But we're 40 million, they're 350 odd million. But in the United States, professing members of the Islamic faith are only in around 1 to 2% of the population. So on a per capita basis, Canada is far, far more Islamic in nature, not a majority, but Islamic populations do tend to congregate, centralize in large urban centers. I live in the sticks, though. I live in Northumberland County, Ontario, an hour and a half outside of Toronto, off my left shoulder there, my left. That's a picture of the CN Tower as it would have looked in 1978, 79, somewhere around there. Uh, in my little rural area where there are more apple trees than there are people, we have grocery stores now selling halal meat. And if you're not familiar with what halal means, it's something of the Islamic equivalent of kosher with Jews. They have kosher dietary laws. In Islam, they refer to it as halal. They're very similar. Neither Jews nor Muslims eat pork. And there's a ritualistic manner in which an animal has to be killed. And in Judaism, the food will be designated as kosher. And in Islam, the term they use is halal. Sharunian has shown up. Are you familiar with Al Green, politician from Texas? No, I'll look that up later. Too much to keep up on right now in the world, but I will give Al Green a look. And Laura is writing, we have larger population in our Texas cities. Number one, Houston. Number two, Dallas. And San Antonio, Moss too. Well, look at Mondami. The United States of America now has an Islamic mayor, joining a number. I did not check. I'm curious. I'm going to have to check and see what the percentage Islamic population is in European countries like Great Britain, like France, or Germany, conversely. And we are coming to an inflection point where there's a class of culture, a class of civilization, a clash of worldview. We have the dying Judeo-Christian world versus an ascendant Islamic world. And this should scare people, but it doesn't. And the reason it doesn't, the reason people are blasé about the rise of Islamic fundamentalism and extremist Islamic belief in the world and in our own countries. The reason people are blasé about it speaks to the reason why Western civilization is in such decay. And it is because we are looking inward. We're not looking at the broader society. We don't care about it. We're too concerned in my native Canada with getting gender pronouns right and not dead naming people and, not offending anyone's sensibilities. And so, my content at some point in the coming month or two, I expect will likely be deemed hate speech. So, if you might want to archive, if you like what I have to say, you might want to archive it because this could be hate speech. I affirm two genders, male and female. We will not, Canada will not be sending any of our naval assets into the Straits of Hormuz. A lot of Canadians agree with that because anything Trump does is bad. But I counter with, yeah, we're not going to send naval assets. We're not going to be concerned with protecting Canada's economy, Canada's way of life, Canada's values. We're too concerned with determining we can't afford it. We've got the an Ontario court ruling requiring our hospitalization insurance plan, OHIP, government funded healthcare, to pay for a man to go down to the United States to have gender affirming surgery, to have his body mutilated because this man wants to have both a penis and a vagina because he does not identify as a man or a woman. And this is where we're focused on in the narcissistic me West, while we have an ascendant in the Middle East rising tide of Islamic extremism that is exporting itself and is operating now as a fifth column Trojan horse in countries like Canada, Great Britain, France, and even to a degree to the United States. I invite everyone watching, because I see there are a number of people watching right now, fill up the live chat. If I offend you, good. If I offend, that is a good thing. We've become far too comfortable. I don't want to be offended. You hurt my feelings. And because you did that, you're a hateful person. I do not ever mean to offer up expressions that are hateful, but at the same time, I hope that the points I'm bringing up perhaps make you uncomfortable because I do not expect this trend that we're on. I'm not here to say, I'm not going to be offering up any solutions because, quite frankly, I do not see any. There are none. There are no solutions to this. It is inevitable, it is historical. This is a pattern. And the dangerous thing right now is when Rome fell, they were carrying shields and swords and had catapults. And I'm sure they had archers, they had bow and arrow. The weapons of war, 1,500 years ago, are far different from the weapons of war that we have today. The weapons of war that we have today, obviously, there's nuclear, which would be catastrophic for the planet. But beyond even just nuclear, we have these MOABs, these mother of all bombs, bunker busters that make the carpet bombing of Dresden in World War II look like, candy coming out of a piñata by comparison. We have directed energy weapons now. We have the potential for what are they called? EMPs, electronic magnetic pulse type of weaponry that is likely out there. There is now biological warfare. The United States, China, Russia, countries around the world are engaging in research to create biological weapons. We are on the precipice. We can stay on the precipice for a long time, but in terms of my own native Canada, We're more on the front lines than the United States in a fashion. We will fall first. Europe will fall. Canada will fall. The last to fall will be the United States, but it too will fall. It too will fall. And what I'm getting into here is something sometimes referred to as eschatology, which is a fancy word. Biblical scholars, theologians, they love their fancy vocabulary, put a nice fancy word on something that can more easily be explained for everyday lay people. But eschatology it simply means end times theology, this idea of the end time. And monarchy uh, is here, and he's saying, "Oh my God, 3 ads in a row before this. Good evening. Glad you were here. Sorry for the ads. It is what it is. I have monetized the station. I don't make a lot of money off of this. Miserable, pathetic, raw, bare bones content. A few nickels, dimes, quarters. The odd loony and toony drops out of YouTube's hand into my little hat. So appreciate you sticking around." And Laura Floyd seems to know about this Al Green reference by Sharunian, and she's writing that Al Green is bad. I'm going to have to look into him. Sounds like a Motown artist, Al Green. Well, what do you think, guys? I'm thinking of that movie, The Decline of the American Empire, 1986, and you had two groups of four individuals, and they kind of flipped the script around. You had four men who were in a cottage in the Laurentians north of Montreal who were preparing the evening meal. And then you had four women who were down in Montreal working out in the gym, at the sauna, working on weights and things like that. So a bit of a role reversal right there. And then what they flashed back and forth between the two groups, and they were all talking about their decadent moral lives, about how all the affairs that they were having, all the their amorous conquests. And when you flip back to the women, it was the same thing, and they were all academics. The movie opens up, as I recall, with one of the characters by the name of Remy, and he's a professor at university, and he's talking about the fact that history is a story of numbers. And there's a reason why we have more history, more records on the Egyptians than on the Nubians because of numbers. We know more about the conquerors than we do about the conquered, and that is because the conquerors outnumber the conquered. And in the world right now, echoing back to the theme of this video, if we look at the Western world, our populations across the entire Western world are in decline. We do not have birth rate, fertility rates sufficient to maintain the population where it is, let alone grow. We are in decline. The only way that countries like Canada increase in size in terms of population is by bringing people in. And where are we bringing people in from? A lot are coming in from the Islamic world. And it is the Islamic world, Muslims have a far greater devotion to their religious worldview than Christians. We have a lot of what I refer to as nominal Christians in this country. We have become lazy, we have become spoiled, horribly spoiled. Um, and Amonarchy was saying that he was just being sarcastic, congratulating me on the monetization. Woohoo! I got YouTube does not pay for me to have a cup of coffee a week, so I sometimes wonder whether I should cancel it. But whatever, it is what it is. I had a few points I wanted to write down. Um, I wanted to riff tonight, is what I wanted to do. And I wanted to point people to Christ because the flood is coming, as it was in the days of Noah. And I don't think it's going to be a flood this time. There's so many different ways that our society as a whole could just simply implode. Um, and right now we have Donald Trump in the White House. That's a good little off ramp to go on to. And he has decided to join in with Israel in an attack on something of the epicenter of Islamic fundamentalism, the Islamic Republic, a theocratic Islamic state, Iran. He has decided to go at them with Israel. And it just came out within the last 24 hours or so that the head of US counterintelligence, there's an oxy counterintelligence. So I get, opposing intelligence now, trying to understand the intelligence gathered by other individuals. He has resigned his position. He wrote a letter that spoke very glowingly of President Donald Trump and about how he was thrilled to serve with him or under him, but that he can no longer, in good conscience, continue in his role because he believes that Trump has been led astray by horrible Israel and attacking Iran, which did not pose, his words, an imminent threat. And I want to fixate a bit on that term, imminent threat. What is an imminent threat? Does that mean a clear and present danger right now? So is that what the United States is expected to do, is to wait until the wolves are at the door before they react? Well, it's months away, it's years away. It's 4 years away, 5 years away. We can just forget about it right now. And that's the way we deal with things in the West currently. No, we cannot put up with no short-term pain. Short-term pain we cannot handle. We live in a culture where we want our every want, need, desire. We want to live hedonistically. We want to live for the moment. We don't want to any pain or discomfort in the here and now. And so, you know, Canadians want gender affirming care. Well, we can't afford it. We don't have enough money. We're having to borrow and print money just to stay afloat now. We can't afford it. Well, you can't not afford. You have to pay. You have to. All right, we'll just print and borrow more money. We'll heap the pain and misery on our kids and our grandkids and our great grandkids. We'll push it down the road. And that, it seems to me, what this head of counterintelligence was saying is that, well, the threat is not imminent. It's not right on the doorstep. So we can just let a future president, let a future generation deal with it when perhaps the United States is in a weakened position and the enemy is in a stronger position and they may have the advantage. This world is getting Mark Carney did tell the not the WEF. He was in China addressing some press conference type setting where he said those infamous words, the new world order. The new world order. We are seeing the dismantling of the old world order, Pax Americana, American hegemony, where the US has got its military bases all around the world, is it able to exert its power and its influence. Well, that world is coming to an end. And Mark Carney, right in the belly of the beast in China, communist China, was heralding it. This is the ending of the old and the bringing on of the new world order. Remember that speech? He stressed those words. What is going to be this new world order? Is it going to be Islamic? I don't believe so. I believe that the Chinese are kind of just laying back right now, and they're happy to watch the US beat its brains out trying to protect itself against a rising tide of Islamic extremism that wants to reshape the Middle East, redraw the lines, that they want American power and influence removed out of the entire Middle East. You have to remember, in the rhetoric of countries like Iran, an Islamic republic, the United States is the big Satan. Israel is only the little Satan. The big Satan is the United States. And they want to, the US has their naval base in Qatar. They've got bases in Syria, in Iraq, in Abu Dhabi, in all throughout the Middle East. And that allows them to exercise influence in that region of the world. And Iran would like to see them removed. And working toward that end, they'd stockpiled, estimates say, somewhere thousands of ballistic missiles, 3,000, no one knows, producing the ability to produce, it is said, hundreds of drones per day. And you talk about the ability to overwhelm even a superpower. You know, you have these Iron Dome type defense systems, your David Sling, Arrow, you have these defense systems, but they're very expensive. It can cost, shooting down drones can cost the Iran can send out 100 drones to target a city, a facility, a military base, and those drones cost a few $1,000s each. But to shoot them down, the ordnance costs hundreds of thousands, millions. And this is how the old Soviet Union ended up imploding. The old Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, seeking to increase their sphere of influence, seeking to bring Afghanistan inside their iron curtain, as it were. Pardon me while I take a sip of water, or coffee, actually. Anyone have any thoughts? Is the moral decay in the Western world reversible? I don't think it is. I think we've cut the ties. And it was Ronald Reagan who, a number of years ago, and John F. Kennedy before him, both made reference to, in their speeches, to a passage from the Sermon on the Mount by, if you read it, it's in Matthew 5, verse 14, about how Jesus saying, "You are the light of the world, like a city on a hill, and that cannot be hid. You can't hide a city on a hill." And that was Reagan took it much further. He invoked that term, the city on the hill, quite frequently in his speeches. Decidedly, unapologetically biblical reference. And we've now the Christian faith is under siege in my own native country, in Canada. If there is a violent act takes place at a mosque, it's national news. But hundreds of churches in this country have arson committed against them, and it's oh well. And we never find out who committed the act. And now we have Barry Neufeld, a former school trustee in Chilliwack, British Columbia, who is living under the weight of a judgment for $750,000 because he asserts what the Bible teaches in Genesis, right in chapter 1, that male and female, he created them. God created man in his own image, male and female. He created them. And Barry Neufeld asserts two genders. He pushes back on the transgender craziness. And a BC Human Rights Tribunal ruled against him and hit him with a $750,000 fine. He is appealing it. but the man is in his 70s. This Imagine having that kind of stress in your life at that age, and this is going to drag on for years. Goodness knows Barry Neufeld may not even survive long enough to get to the end of the legal process. They've dumped on him, all over proclaiming biblical, what Christians view as truth, biblical truth. And it used to be that a Canadian, a charge facing allegations of hate crime, hate speech, could make an argument. There was a clause within the criminal code which precluded persecuting a Christian who was expressing good faith religious views based on biblical teaching, based on scripture. Well, that provision within the criminal code is being removed as we speak. Is it Bill C6 or C9? I seem to think C9. I get my numbers mixed up. There's so many pieces of legislation going through, many draconian in nature, and it takes away that protection from people expressing a deeply held, good faith profession based on biblical teaching. Well, this individual who doesn't know what their gender is, who can't decide what they are, who wants to have a penis and a vagina because they don't identify as male and female, is deeply offended and finds your comments hateful. Well, I was in the army, and these words need to be said more and more. Suck it up, buttercup. I don't care if your feelings are hurt. I don't want them to be hurt. I would like you to accept the fabric of basic biological reality, and live the life that God intended for you. But I recognize that I live in a pluralistic, liberal democracy where we do not live in a theocratic state. And so God gave us free will. The state gives people free will to decide for themselves. You are not required to believe in this book. It's not like living in Iran. It's not like living in Iran where a woman has to abide by Sharia law, Islamic law, that says a woman cannot leave the house unless escorted by a male family member and with her head and face covered. That's Iran. We don't operate that way in the West. I think in a liberal democratic society, I should have the right to say that any sexual activity outside of the paradigm of a marriage between a man and a woman, that any sexual activity outside that narrow paradigm is immoral and sinful. Now, do I think that someone caught in a homosexual act should be executed? No, no, that's not Christian love. There's tension here. There's tension here. And but now merely expressing that belief that, more any sexual activity outside of a consecrated marriage between a man and woman, any sexual activity outside those parameters is sinful. That could be determined hate speech. How? Because someone will say to me, "How dare you call me sinful?" I'm not calling you sinful. I am merely, it's not my place. I'm merely espousing what is taught in scripture. Well, that hurts me. That's hate. That is hate. And within my understanding of the way C9 breaks down is I'm going to have to plead mea culpa, guilty as charged. I'm expressing the view that any sexual activity outside of the confines of a marriage between a man and a woman, that it is sinful. And I also believe that sin is what separates humanity from God. Anyway, I'm rambling. And Amonarchy is writing, I can imagine Trump saying the US is the great Satan, the greatest, uh, we're the greatest Satan, okay? Greatest, there's never been a Satan better than the United States. And the thing I want to stress here is number one, I'm not a MAGA Trumper type. Uh, I I engage in what I call compartmentalization. Trump has recognized the fabric of biological reality. His state had to sign an executive order establishing two genders. It's like, what's next? An executive order saying that if you jump in a lake, you'll get wet. It's duh, yeah. But in today's world, that requires something like an executive order. There are two genders. There's men and women, boys and girls, male, female, XY, gender, sex. There's only two, and you don't. It's not an endless spectrum. You can't be fluid. Now, with that being said, if some guy wants to put on a dress and parade around liberal democratic society, go ahead. But where the rubber hits the road is now that same guy who likes to wear dresses like a Dylan McIlvaney. Is that his name? The guy who tanked Bud Light. Um, the, if that guy wants to go into a locker room and where girls or women are, should he be allowed? No. No, I'm willing to put a little bit of water in my wine to the extent that if a guy goes through what I refer to as the full Monty transition, and if a guy goes and becomes a completely surgically altered man, he has the full surgical alteration and he's a surgically altered man. Well, okay, you no longer have a penis and testicles, and you want to go, yeah, at that point, use the women's facilities. You want to, fair enough. You don't have the equipment anymore. You're still a man. You're just a surgically altered man. In bygone eras, they were called eunuchs, although it goes further than that now. Anyway, uh, not as much discussion on this as I thought it might generate, because, but maybe I should script something like this out fully, write it down, and publish it as a video, not live stream it. And I may do that at some point because I think we're at a critical juncture where Canada's going to fall, Western Europe's going to fall, the United States is going to be the last one standing, and then it too will fall. And when it does, I think Islam is under the misguided notion, the Islamic world is under the misguided notion that, they're going to rule over the Middle East and the whole world because extremist radical Islam wants the entire planet has to submit to the will of Allah. And the whole world has to live under Sharia law. And the whole world will submit in their ideology. And so when the US does fall, at that point, the Islamic world, yay, we're top dog now. And that's where I think the Chinese come in and sitting back, they're keeping their powder dry. And then they come in with their 1.4 billion population and say, sorry, think again. Now we're in charge. Now we're going to put our military installations in. We're going to outlaw the Islamic faith. We're going to outlaw any faith. We're going to indoctrinate you into the communist worldview that says that religion of any kind is the opiate of the masses. And there are two sides. I was talking earlier, I brought up eschatology, end times theology. And there are two sides to the eschatological coin, to the end times prophecy coin. On the one side, it says, all civilizations consider themselves to be invulnerable. All civilizations, be it the Greeks, the Romans, the Persians, the Babylonians, they all think that they're invulnerable. But history tells us none are. Every great civilization rises, hits a pinnacle, declines, and then falls over and over and over again. That's the pattern. And so, why would it be any different now? The only thing is, there are multiple end times. The Jews who were living in Roman occupied Judea in the first and early second century, under Roman occupation, but they still had their temple. They were still doing their sacrifices. They were still the dominant population group in that geographic region in Roman occupied Judea. And then AD 70 came, and the emperor sent his legions, and the temple, the focal point of Judaic religious worship, was destroyed. Not one stone left standing upon another, as prophesied by Christ. But then 135 AD, the Bar Kokhba revolt, and that then Jews were basically scattered to the four corners of the earth. Only a very few Jews remained in what we call the Holy Land. Call it Israel, call it Palestine, call it whatever you want. There are only The Jewish presence in that land was almost completely erased. Not completely, but darn close. Their world came crashing to an end. And then 476 AD as the scholarly accepted date for the picture, the fall of the Western Empire, not the Western Empire, rather the Roman Empire, the Western Roman Empire. The Roman Empire had divided in two between the Eastern Roman and the Western Roman Empire. The Western Roman Empire typically is called the Roman Empire, and the Eastern um, Roman Empire became known as the Byzantine Empire, headquartered in Istanbul, what was then Constantinople. But I'm rambling and rambling and rambling. I need to tie this up. I don't want to go on too much longer. Get into relationship with Christ, because when the flood comes, you're going to want to be in the ark, and the ark is Christ. You want to be covered by the blood of the Lamb. We're coming up on the Passover season. I do not like using the term Easter, simply because it's a Germanic pagan word. Some think it's a derivation of Ishtar, nature worship. Others point to the Germanic goddess Eostre. I tend to think it's more tied to Eostre, Eostre, a Germanic god of fertility, of spring, of renewal. So why we, have Easter eggs, fertility symbol, rabbits because of their prodigious sexual activity, reproductive cycle. Yeah. And so I prefer to call this season that we're entering the Passover season. And a lot of Christians, I think, lose the significance of Jesus's cross because we divorce ourselves from the Judaic roots. Jesus went to the cross uh, at the Passover. He was the Passover lamb, the lamb that took on the sins of Israel, the people. He bore their stripes, he bore their iniquities, and through him we are made clean. That was the story for Jews in when they would slaughter the Passover lamb, the lamb without blemish, without spot, perfect, ideal, pure white. Jesus is that Passover lamb. And Jews celebrate the Passover to celebrate the exodus out of bondage in Egypt when 10 plagues were sent upon Egypt. And the last of the 10 plagues, and the plague that finally got Pharaoh to let God's people go, was the angel of death. God sent death upon the firstborn. However, anyone who had on their doorposts the blood of the lamb, if the blood of a lamb was on the doorpost and on the lentil, is the word they use in the Bible, Lentil. So basically, the door frame, if there was blood on it, The angel of death passed over. And through Christ, through his sacrifice on the cross, Christians, those who profess Jesus with their mouth and believe in their heart that he is the Lamb of God, that death passes us over. We're still going to lose this mortal coil. This meat locker of a body will eventually pass away, yes, but we will not be subject to the second death. We will be the beneficiaries of life everlasting in loving relationship with the one who created us all. It's a wonderful message. It's true, but the Islamic world doesn't buy it. The Islamic world is about power. The Islamic world is about subjugation. It's not about freedom. It's about subjugation. There's no grace in the Islamic faith, only retribution. They bring in this notion of the scales. Well, you can do bad, so you've done bad, but just do some more, do some more good, and then, your bad doesn't matter anymore. Whereas in the Christian faith, we're taught that all our good deeds are nothing. If you read Isaiah, our all our good deeds are nothing but dirty rags in the eyes of God, God who is perfect, holy, righteous, and good. There's nothing we can do. Salvation is a gift of grace, and the expression of that grace was Jesus on the cross. Eat me. Nancy has shown up. Salut, ma belle. Um, Nancy is from Montréal, so a little bit of French. We were talking earlier about Le Déclin de l'Empire américain, un film de Denis Arcand de l'année 1986. Un film qui a gagné une médaille à l'Estival à Cannes, le médaille des critiques. Il y a un nom spécifique, mais j'oublie le nom de le prix qu'ils ont gagné. Et puis, c'était nominé aussi pour un Oscar dans les Academy Awards. Il n'a pas gagné, mais une nomination, c'est pas pire quand même. C'était le premier film canadien de gagner une nomination chez les Oscars. But I'm going to stop speaking French because I'm losing it. Uh, at any rate, I'm going to wrap up. Going on for almost a minute. Oh, and Eat Me is referencing the second film that Denny Arcand made in kind of a sequel that was called Les Invasions Barbares, the Barbarian Invasions would be the English translation, or the Barbarian Invasion. Well, actually, the way it's written there, Les Invasions, the barbarian invasions, and it's kind of what we're experiencing right now, except it's not an invasion. We're inviting it in. We're inviting it in. We're saying, come on in, Islamic world. Put up your mosques. We'll elect Islamic mayors. We are no longer holding to our Judeo-Christian values anymore. We've thrown them out the window. We're interested in sating our every sexual desire, and we're all concerned with personal identity and this sense of a broader cultural ethic. Everyone's a god unto themselves in our culture. So come on in and take over. And that is what is happening. And now you have Donald Trump attempting to reassert the American empire and the countries that are supposed to be his allies, like Canada, are saying, no, you're on your own. Thank you for our wealth. Thank you for our prosperity. Thank you for our amazing standard of living. Because let's be honest, Canada, would we have the standard of living and the quality of life that we have in this country if we were not fortunate enough to be residing right next door to the world's greatest military superpower? No way. We benefited enormously, greatly from being situated right next door. Our military, we don't need it. Yeah. Well, submarines, we'll buy some used, broken down, used diesel subs from Britain. We're not going to, come on. We got the biggest coastline in the world, but we don't need to protect it. We got the United States. We can spend money on other things. We can spend money on promoting gender crap. We can spend money on, all over the world, telling them to promote gender crap. And now the United States asks for our help. Help help us. The Straits of Hormuz, your gas price is going to a buck 50, 60, 70. It's going to be $2 a liter. Come, send some ships. Let's secure this part of the world. Let's secure this. No, you're on your own, Trump. We don't like you. We don't like you. So you can crash and burn. We're going to cozy up to the communist Chinese with their social credit score, with their digital surveillance, with their lack of human rights. We like that because we don't like you. Trump has his flaws, but he is far better than China. And Nancy's saying that they have it rough in Dearborn right now. Dearborn, Michigan, is something um, that Dearborn, Michigan is something of a ground zero for the Islamic presence in America. Michigan has a very large, I would have to look that up specifically. I know that Muslims in the United States make up less than 2% of the population, or in and around 2% at the most. But I would imagine that in Michigan and in general, and Dearborn, Michigan in particular, that is the hotbed. And it kind of makes sense, Dearborn, because that was the home of Henry Ford. Henry Ford actually bought a newspaper. I think it was called the Dearborn Independent, because Henry Ford hated Jews. Henry Ford received the highest civilian award from Hitler uh, during the Nazi era. The Nazis loved Henry Ford, and Henry Ford, um, probably had a signed copy of Mein Kampf. He did not like the Jews, and he would write anti-Israel. Well, it wasn't anti-Israel back then, but Henry Ford had no use for all things Jewish, and he eventually would go on to publish a book. He took his anti-Jewish screeds and had them put into a book that was called The International Jew. you know, and it's this, the everyone's familiar with it now. This idea that the big bad boogeyman Jew is the one pulling the strings of everyone. And I'm here to say, is Benjamin Netanyahu a good guy? He's no different than Donald Trump. He's no different from John F. Kennedy. He's no different from Mark Carney. He's no different from Xi Jinping or Rocket Man or Putin. They're all playing the game of real politic. And I don't apply a double standard to Israel, and I don't apply a double standard to Benjamin Netanyahu. Uh, I like what Eaton wrote. She wrote that giving money around the world for gender crap, echoing my words, equals money laundering. I'm sure that's a big part of it. But I hope you enjoyed the stream. If you liked it, like, share, subscribe. You know the whole drill. I've gone on just about an hour now. Going to wrap up and pray. Pray, get into relationship with the one who created all things, because it's coming. I don't know how quick. I'm not putting dates out there. Could be a year, could be 5 years, could be 10. I don't know, but we're on the slope down. And I do believe that in the context of this end that is coming, the fall of Rome, the fall of American hegemony, the fall of Pax Americana. I do believe that this isn't just an end, but rather that it is the end because of nuclear warfare, EMPs, directed energy weapons, goodness knows, cyber warfare. The world right now is so reliant on digital technology that all you have to do is cut. If the internet was to ever shut down, Katie barred the door, our world could not function. Money would stop being transferred. People would no longer be able to communicate. We've got digital printing making things that human hands used to make. We can't think for ourselves anymore. We've got AI assistants doing all our thinking for us. And if goodness, if something were to happen to our digital infrastructure, if it was to be come under a cyber attack, the only ones who are going to survive are the Amish and the Mennonites and groups like that, the Hutterites and what have you. But thank you for watching. I'll end with a blessing from the book of Numbers, end of chapter 6. May the Lord bless and keep you and lift up his countenance upon you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord God Almighty, creator of all things, may he grant you peace. Even in troubling times like we are living in now, gas is going to go higher. Inflation is going to take off. This war is not ending, it is going to expand. There's a lot of propaganda on both sides of the equation. Has Iran's capabilities been severely limited? I believe so. But has the United States decimated Iran to the point where it can no longer fight back? No. They fired 500 ballistic missiles already, and they have thousands more, according to all estimates. Can they get them in the air? Do they have the rocket launch capability? Remember, Iran is in the sphere of Russia, China, North Korea. So they may be standing alone right now, but they may be getting help as we speak through back channels that we're unaware of. Buckle up and get into this word. Uh, and Nancy's saying that anyone with machinist training will be worth his price in gold, provided there's electricity to run that machine. We'll need people who will be able to reinvent the old mill type water systems with a water power rather than hydroelectric power. Anyway, God bless and thanks for watching. See you again. Night.